I'd no insight, I'd no understanding of what was going on in my head. When I talk to people, I compare it to kind of like a nightmare, but you don't wake up from it. It's there all the time. My name is Brian McNulty. I was diagnosed with psychosis as a general term when I was 19 years of age. On my first admission, they called it schizophrenia. On the second admission, they called it psychoaffective disorder. And on my third admission, and this was when I was 21 years of age, they called it bipolar. So it took them a while to figure out what diagnosis to give me. I didn't have any insight. For example, the first time I was in hospital, I thought I was in the Simon community in Dublin the first night I went in. That's where I thought I was. And I was actually in a psychiatric hospital. I had no insight, I had no understanding of what was going on in my head. When I talk to people, I compare it to kind of like a nightmare, but you don't wake up from it. It's there all the time. It's very interesting. I spent a lifetime really learning about my mental illness. And you would expect that as time would go on, I'd become a more cooperative patient. But on the last 3 admissions, I was compulsory detained. They would have happened in the late 80s was my first compulsory admission. And this was my 6th admission. So my 6th admission, my 7th admission in 1990, and my last admission, which actually just happened to be last year, I was compulsory detained. And I was compulsory detained perhaps because I now was becoming more assertive and becoming more of a difficult patient. I'd my mind made up about how I was to be treated, and so when I wasn't rational, I needed to be detained. I needed to be treated involuntary, because I wasn't prepared to accept a treatment. If I was to just take the last example, I was so psychotic, I wasn't aware that I was going into the psychiatric hospital. When I went to accident and emergency, I thought my wife was very anxious and she needed to be looked after. I was fine. So, when I ended up in the psychiatric unit, it was only the next day it dawned on me that that's where I was. So it was this complete lack of insight. Now, on the point of my human rights being, this is what I think people don't grasp. When you're psychotic, somehow people have to look after your interests when you're very unwell. You don't have the capacity to look after yourself. So involuntary, it was right for me because, for example, if we just take the last example, I could have been a danger to myself when I left the hospital. Not that I was going to try to kill myself, but I'd kind of run across the road. I had done that previously while I was manic over a day or two. I'd move very quickly. Even though I'm an owl fella, I'm fairly light on my feet. So I take risks, and that created a danger for me. I could have very easily been injured. I wasn't going to injure myself. I wasn't going to believe I could fly or anything like that, because that wasn't the nature of my illness. Legislators, they don't really respond to need, I meaning kind of politicians deciding where resources are going to go. They don't respond to need. They respond to kind of what the general public feel is best, rather than perhaps listening to the experts and addressing the needs that people have. Because if the needs aren't addressed, it's going to cost the country an awful lot of more money as things get more out of control.